Hello, in this presentation I would like to show you how you can develop or formulate an e-learning policy. So I'm going to provide a template which if you feel it is useful, well, you can adopt and use it for your college. Now, I provide this information on my blog, so to access it, you can go to www.tvetdistancelearning.blogspot.com. Alright, you go to this tab here, blog posts, and you should be able to see all the other topics we've dealt with in the past. And we've been looking at critical success factors in managing distance learning, and I am right now on the critical success factor number 4, and that is about formulating and implementing an e-learning policy. So I need to emphasize here that if you are providing distance learning through a learning management system or an e-learning platform, an e-learning policy is very important. It is crucial for the success of your service delivery. Conducting e-learning activities without a policy is more like wanting to go on a journey, like you want to go to Ndola or to Livingstone. You get on a bus, but actually this bus does not have a driver. Well, this example may seem to be so overstretched, but actually that is what it is in reality, because any IT solution which does not have a policy or an environment where there are clearly stipulated guidelines, that ICT solution will soon or later become a problem itself. So this is important. So now you can click on that and just see the article that I published. Okay, so in this presentation I'll talk about 3 things. First, I want to explain in very simple terms the meaning of e-learning policy. Then later on we move to describing contents of an LMS or e-learning policy, although, well, LMS and LMS policy and e-learning policy, those are actually different things, but for now we're just looking at it in very simple terms, so I'll stick with the e-learning term. Alright, the number 3, I want us to look at a real-world example of how an e-learning policy actually looks like. Now, what is an e-learning policy? An e-learning policy is simply a set of guidelines, okay, and requirements which are formulated to achieve effective lesson delivery and learning experience through an online platform such as a learning management system. So what you essentially have in an e-learning policy are guidelines, okay, to guide these lecturers on how they need to teach or engage with students on this platform. Alright, and of course it goes without saying that without these guidelines and requirements, well, lecturers will have no standard, or they'll have no standards or procedures to follow when going about their work. Everyone will be doing it their own style, and when students submit assignments, there won't be a stated schedule to follow, for example, or what kind of format should all content conform to, or what elements should be found in every upload that you make onto the e-learning platform. So, and that is why an e-learning policy is just important, to give guidelines. Now, what are these contents that should make up an e-learning policy? Alright, now different organizations may have different contents or formats, but there is this template that I provide. If you wish, you can adopt and use it for your institution if you find it useful. But here is what I have. First, it is important that you have a heading that clearly spells out the purpose for this policy. Okay, so under this heading you can actually state what the policy intends to achieve. Why is the organization having this policy? So, and in here you can also include statements which may refer to or quote any piece of legislation that the policy is designed to adhere to. All right, so if there's that need, you can always include that reference. Then scope, you need to state that this policy it deals with this and that aspects of our information system. What I need to spell out here is colleges or universities may have what, for example, you may call a campus management system. Now, such a system will have various components: a component which handles payroll, a component which handles timetabling, a component which handles e-learning. So under scope, try to state what aspect of your information systems infrastructure the policy has been designed to address. Okay, then here is an important component: service delivery. Here you need to state what learning resources should be made available to students. Okay, for example, you can state that there should be lesson notes, videos, to just give visual illustrations to this student. Remember, it is e-learning because the student will be studying from wherever they are, and you are not there in a classroom to give them instructions. So you may state that apart from lesson notes, you need to upload for every lesson or for every topic you upload, there has to be a link to a certain video. It could be on YouTube. Well, there are so many shareable resources on those platforms. Or it could be yourself making a video and uploading it. And you may also state that there has to be book references. Okay, let's move on to learner support. Well, learner support refers to what teachers or lecturers should do to help learners beyond the normal delivery of content. Okay, and Tony Bates has provided a very good article on this, on learner support. For example, lecturers should not just upload notes and then leave it there. There has to be some sort of a schedule or a timetable on when students can ask questions they have regarding what they've been studying. So you can, for example, state in the policy that lecturers will need to create schedules or timetables of video conferences or webinars, and there are so many free software tools you can use for that. You can use Skype, you can use Zoom, and various other software tools. But the point here is it is important to create a schedule when students expect you to engage with them, and they can ask questions and you can explain certain things which may not be clear to them. So what is important is the policy needs to state, to guide lecturers for them to be able to make timetables and schedules. A lecturer can say on Mondays and Wednesdays I am available at such and such a time for video conferencing. You can ask whatever questions you have. Okay, then moving on to assessments. Here state what assessments students should be given. Okay, what criteria is going to be used for giving out marks, and when feedback, that is assessment results, will be made available to the learners. So students should have the confidence that for all assessments given, they will have timely feedback. The last thing a student wants is writing a test or submitting an assignment, and then there are no clear guidelines or stipulated schedules when they can get feedback, all right, to whatever they do. So it is important always to remember that distance learning has the distance aspect. Okay, the lecturer and the student are not in one place, and so wherever the student is, they must feel the presence of the institution, all right, in terms of giving them guidance. They should never feel alone. All right, that is very key if distance learning has to be successful. All right, then behavioral conduct. It's also important that you state professional and ethical conduct that is expected of lecturers. What language is acceptable? Okay, when handling a complaint, or when giving assessment feedback, or when publishing a notice. All right, so it is important that this is spelled out so that it becomes a very conducive environment where learning can effectively take place. Then you should also state who is responsible for making revisions. Okay, well, it doesn't mean it's only one individual to make the revisions, but it could be a body. Okay, it could be a department, it could be certain leaders. But what is important is there should be maybe a key person who should be responsible after a certain defined interval of time, when you can consider making revisions, because these are usually dynamic environments. Certain needs may be seen later on, so it is important, just to define those things. Then contact information. Okay, suppose one may need clarification on a certain item in the policy, so it is important to provide contact information of who should be contacted with regards that. This can be a group again. It could be, for example, an ODFL unit or a distance learning unit, or it could be head of department. Then you have a glossary section where you define any words that are likely to be unclear to the reader of the policy. And acronyms, of course, there we are talking about any abbreviations that need to be spelled out. But I need to say here that usually this is appropriate for very big, longer, complex documents. So usually an e-learning policy shouldn't be very long. 2 or a maximum of 3 pages may do. Okay, but again, it depends on the needs of an organization. So if you see the need of that, you can include acronyms. But if the document is small, you can spell out those abbreviations or acronyms within the body of the document. All right, now let us take a look at how an e-learning policy is. And here I want to show you the one used by University of Nottingham. So you can just click there, and you will be able to see what policy this university uses. It is something they've made available on the internet. Okay, so in your own time, you can open this link, and you will actually find a number of sections I referred to. You'll be able to see them here. They have the overview. You'll be able to see how that is explained there. On delivery, you can see what information is provided. Now, you may not see all the contents that I've explained in my template, but this should be able to give you an idea of how your policy should look like. Okay, if you found this useful, well, you can let me know by posting a comment in the comment section of my blog. I hope this was helpful.